And now for the starter evolutions. Arguably the best part of the Pokemon games.
To episode 8. I'm
You can
Gabe,
make
and
the
today
argument.
Our starters are
May
evolving.
not agree with it, but you
also,
can make the argument.
Be sure to stick around to the end because I'll have another prompt for you so I can
It's also the most controversial part of Pokemon games when you see what the evolutions look like.
In the last episode, you arrived in Camp Niffer and challenged Alexo, the Dark-type head researcher. After a difficult battle, you were victorious, and immediately after winning, you find that some of your Pokemon are ready to evolve.
But first, I should have paid more attention at the actually coding in the gym rather than whenever I was talking about.
Alright, we've got quite a few designs
but hey, we
to
can
get
reuse
through,
the background.
so let's
spend
just
so long
jump
building
right
it's
into
be
it.
waste for it to
In
just
no
go
particular
away.
order, let's see who's up first. Little Fleetwee is
nice.
evolving.
Start with the fire type. Alright.
So, I'm going to start off by saying that designing starter middle evolutions is tough.
Yeah.
Like really freaking tough.
You can do the
Honestly,
Pokemon Uranium thing and just
with
don't do it.
I mean,
Mega
be,
Evolutions
just a
is their
slightly
third form,
bigger of
basically.
The first stage, but you also don't want it
so
too
lame to me. I mean, it's
big or
original, but it's
different,
also like,
and
when
needs
does
a
it evolve
distinct
again? It doesn't.
personality.
What?
You don't want to fall into the trap of just an angsty teenager.
But that's so easy.
I knew that I wanted it to be based on an Oviraptor.
Plus, what's
Getting
wrong with
that
the angsty
nice
teenager
long neck already
cliche?
gave me a silhouette that's very different from wee little Fleetwee. And extending Fleetwee's forehead feather up into the Oviraptor's head crest felt like a natural progression.
I like that.
Its arms are in a strange configuration that I'm gonna justify by dropping a little paleontology knowledge on you. Oviraptors have traditionally been depicted as little opportunistic egg thieves. All they wanted to do was find an unguarded nest, go grab an egg, run away, and chow down.
Well, have you seen Soul eating Oviraptor to baby
This was because a bunch of
Ceratosaurus?
Oviraptor fossils were discovered with eggshells around them, so paleontologists were like, yeah, this little jerk is stealing and eating eggs. But we've finally come to understand that those eggshells were likely from the Oviraptor's own nests. They were caring parents looking after their eggs. So this Pokemon will kind of combine those two views. It definitely loves stealing and running away with eggs.
I mean, that does make more sense rather than stealing eggs if they're trying to protect their own.
Arms and protects them.
Sort of like
just
how
like a
the
real
whole
Oviraptor
alpha
would.
male,
Ovannish,
alpha wolves,
the
sigma
egg thief
wolves.
Pokemon.
The alpha wolf
Researchers
sort of
initially
mentality
theorized
thing
that
is
this
inaccurate.
Pokemon stole
You know, that
eggs in
old
order
thing.
To eat them. However, it seems that
I'm sure
Ovannish
people
only
have
wish
heard
to
to
look
death by
after
now, so
the
I'm not
eggs
gonna
and
tell.
use their soft feathered bellies to help them stay warm. If it's holding an egg, it will stop at nothing to protect it. But once the egg
Give it
hatches, they
Happini's
quickly
egg
get bored
thingy.
and annoyed with the baby Pokemon and move on to another
Was
egg.
it an oval stone,
Its
I
ability
think?
is Flame Body, so contact moves may end up leaving the attacker burned, and more importantly and thematically, it lets you hatch eggs faster. If you picked Fleetwee as your starter, let me know in the comments below what you think of Ovannish.
I like it.
Alright, next up,
I
it
guess
looks
I like how it's
the
only the egg
awkward
thing,
waddling
I like that.
Stuckito is evolving
Taking a
into
break
its
from the
final
starter.
form. And this will be our first
Ooh.
fully evolved 3-stage design.
Are those the mosquitoes that
You
took
all
the
knew
amber from
where
Jurassic
this
Park?
design was
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Our mosquito has got to break out of its amber.
Look, if
Now,
it
I
wasn't
didn't
for these
want it
little
to
mosquitoes,
completely
there wouldn't be
discard the
Jurassic
amber, so I
Park.
made
It's
sure
just a
some
fact.
sizable chunks stayed stuck to its
Particularly the
body.
amber also
This
played a
led
part,
to
but
a
still.
particularly fun insect wing design.
Yeah,
And you can
the
see that
amber's
the
around
Pokemon's
it.
actual body is
It's like it
incredibly
evolved
simple,
to
but
work
it's
with the
amber
amber
pieces that really
surrounding
make it
it.
dynamic. I am keeping it bug and rock type, but this is definitely one of those designs
Bug
where
rock's
I
a new
could have
type thing,
justified
I think.
making it 4 types. Like, it could certainly pull
Yeah.
off both flying and dark types also.
Yeah.
But we're going to ignore flying by saying that it's generally too heavy to fly and hand wave away the dark type since
Well, I
it's
mean, some
really
bug
only
types don't
immune
need to be
plants.
flying types to
By
fly.
this point, I've got rendering the amber
Median
down,
for
and I
existence.
love how it turns
I
out.
mean,
The
example,
body is
Beedrill.
definitely
You
on
don't
the
have to
dark
be
side of
flying
things,
type
but
to
I
know
like
how
how
to
it makes
fly.
the eyes really
Geodude
pop.
doesn't have any
This
flying
is
abilities, and he
Resident
just
Evil,
floats there,
the
and no one
Dragon
questions it.
Pokemon. After breaking free from its hardened sap, Resident Evil
Sort
has
of.
a voracious appetite. It struggles to fly due to the weight of its remaining resin casing, so you can often spot them hopping and fluttering after grass-type Pokemon.
Huh.
Its ability remains Sap Sipper just because it makes so much sense for this line.
Yeah, it makes sense. They
I
can
do
keep it.
love that such an intimidating design has to resort to awkwardly, like, hopping around. But yeah,
it is a
let me know
little
what you think
funny
about
just
it.
to think it's hopping there.
The grumpy little sailor.
Alright,
is
back
up
to the
next.
main starters.
This is the starter middle evolution that gave me the most trouble.
Yeah,
I
imagine.
knew that it was going to be a Dimetrodon, but
Good
man,
pick.
oh man, I really struggled to make it really anything more than a cartoon Dimetrodon.
I
Other
mean,
starters theming, the
yeah.
fleeing and the freezing when threatened.
I think you could have
lend
done a cartoon
themselves a bit
Dimetrodon and
better
everyone would
to
have
a
been
distinct
fine.
personality.
At least generally.
The fight response just leaves you with an angry Pokemon, which just isn't the most interesting personality trait. Now, all of these middle stage Pokemon have
Tell that to the
abilities
animators. They love to
tied
have
their
the
skin,
I
so
don't like you or anything,
Ovanish
but
had flame
you
bodies,
like me.
and I knew I
and now
wanted this
going to
design to
obey
have
you.
dry skin. Just
Story
let me
arc.
play up the droopy skin folds on Dimetrodon a little bit.
Charizard
But
did it
other than
one
that,
time
was
and suddenly it has
resisting
to
the
happen
urge
like
to
once a
over-design this
season.
middle stage, and even then, it's still on the more complex side of things. Colors were straightforward and help, sell that drooping skin. Anyway, this is Sliscale,
Huh.
the angry fin Pokemon.
I like it.
This aggressive Pokemon clumsily charges at anyone who gets too close. The large sail on Sliscale's back is able to absorb water and rejuvenate their injuries. They attempt to hide just below the water's surface, not realizing that their sail often gives away their position. They are incredibly loyal to their trainer and will diligently stand guard without prompting.
I might
Its
be
ability, again,
mistaken,
is
but I
dry
think this
skin,
would be the
so
first
that will
time we'd have
heal
a
it if it takes any water
quadrupedal
damage, though it is a
Watertech
little bit
start.
more
Well, no, there
susceptible
was
to
the
fire
Greninja
damage
line in
and
Gen
hot weather.
6. Never
Of
mind.
the three, this is definitely the least interesting middle stage, but I can rest easy knowing that its final stage is gonna.
It's
knock
gonna
your
more than make
socks
up for it.
off
It's okay to have an awkward
and let me
middle
know if you have
stage
any
if
predictions
the other
about
two
it.
stages can make up for
But
it, in my
up
opinion.
next, our Route 1 flying type is ready
And
to
now another
evolve.
one.
Yes, little Kaitike is going
So
to
many
go
evolutions
from
all the
barely
time.
being able to glide to now soaring gracefully.
Hopefully this goes better than Archeops.
This will also introduce the line's second typing,
Looks
Electric.
like a kite. Electric.
Oh, and
Yeah.
I can finally reveal some more inspiration. Not only are we pulling from, large pterosaurs, but we will be playing off Benjamin Franklin's key and kite experiment.
I can't wait for that to be
Being an
retconned by the
American,
history
I can
books.
pretty confidently say
Actually,
that
no, it was
Benjamin
actually
Franklin
this
was
random
like
schmuck
freaking
from...
amazing. I'm not gonna go.
If
on
it's
too much
more
of a tangent,
historically accurate and
but
true,
just
so
say
be
that
it, but
his
I'm just... I don't
contributions
know.
to electricity
Maybe it's...
are insane.
Old man yells at
Oh,
cloud.
and no. During his key and kite experiment, the kite was never actually struck by lightning. He was just observing and feeling for himself the electrical charge.
Spoil
difference
sports,
between
that's
sound
not as
and
funny.
cloud. So, anyway,
An
our
old man gets
pterosaur
struck by
Pokemon is a
lightning
very
is far more
kite-like
entertaining
body
than,
plan
ooh,
in honor
pretty
of that
lights.
electrifying experiment. And now this does
An apple
mean
did
that
not fall in
it's
Sir
not
Isaac
gonna be
Newton's head, but it's
particularly
funnier
good
to think he got
at
bonked,
landing,
isn't it?
but I think it's a cute trade-off for a middle stage. This is Asdazkite, the
Cool name.
gliding Pokemon. This Pokemon uses its specialized tail to gather electrical energy from the atmosphere. At night, they can be seen
I
leaving
love
trails
its
of
shiny
static
look.
sparks
That is-
across the sky.
Mwah.
Though they are able to effortlessly glide through the air, they are absolutely terrible at landing. For the ability,
Like an actual
it only
kite.
makes sense for it to get lightning rod, so that'll attract any electric type moves, and instead
Its
of
held
taking
item
any
is a
damage,
piece of
it will
string.
boost its special attack. Yeah, this design is
Flying
pretty
a kite.
cute, and
It's really
electric
fun when
ground
you're
is a
about
really good type
4 or
combination, too.
under. And then after
Alright,
that, it's like, this is
lastly,
lame.
Our happy little Cactamo
Throw a
is
turbo on
evolving
my neck of the
also.
woods because it doesn't get
Pretty
wind.
silly,
We don't get
but
wind.
I
Well, we
love
get
the
wind,
idea
of course,
of our
but like
freeze
you know,
survival
kite
response
wind.
leading to a horribly uncomfortable pose.
it
Cactamo already had a cactusy appearance.
looks like
but
it
its
has a
evolution
cactus shoved up
needed
its
a
you-know-what.
ridiculous pose to look even more like a cactus. In an early pass at this design, I had it just holding its big tail in the air to look like a cactus, but this is just so much more ridiculous and fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
and
looks
at some point,
ridiculous.
I may reveal some of those atrocious early sketches. Boreal Minds
I'd be down to
suggested
see it.
that I give a sneak peek, and it could be fun. But yeah, this pretending to be a cactus pose is much better, particularly
It's
when
pulling a
the
pseudo
awkward
Wudo.
expression on the face becomes more of a focus point. The actual body
Again, to me, I look at it, I
isn't
just think,
particularly
can someone get
different
this
from
out of me?
Hakamo, though I imagine that its back has more cactus barbs on it.
Probably.
Regardless, I'm really happy with this design and the amount of personality that it has.
It looks good.
This is Cactolage,
I like
the
it.
disguised Pokemon.
It made me laugh.
This awkward Pokemon is surprisingly successful
called
at
the awkward
mimicking a
Pokemon.
prehistoric type of desert cactus. Cactolage can balance on their thick tails with
There's
their
a prehistoric
arms up
cactus?
for hours without moving. If discovered, they often resort to falling over onto their attacker. Getting them to do much more than stand about can be extremely difficult. Its ability is rough skin, because it's a cactus, so
Yeah.
that'll inflict a little bit of damage onto their attacker. And with that,
Makes sense.
we have a bunch of new Pokemon evolutions.
A whole funk
You'll
ton.
have to let me know
It's
down in
totally
the
be a
comments
thumbnail.
below which is your favorite.
Ovenish.
Oh, and do the middle stages for the starters have you rethinking your initial pick at all?
No, I would stuck with the fire.
As apathetic
Although,
as ever,
second best
Alexo,
is
the dark-type head researcher,
the
approaches
bug
you. He's
type.
struggling to remain unimpressed after witnessing so many of your team evolve.
Yeah, you got 5
Certainly
evolutions at
progress
once.
getting your Pokemon. Beating
Don't
me
hit
and evolving
B.
your Pokemon, you've earned this.
He taps his ID badge against yours, and you see a dark-type icon appear on it. With your second access code acquired, you heal up your Pokemon and make for the restricted
Pokedex
gates
is
to the
31, I
north.
noticed that
It
detail.
unlocks for you, and you see Route 5 beyond. But we'll leave that for the next episode.
Well, we got a
but real
0.5
quick,
coming
before
up
we
next.
Go, I need more suggestions from you. Looking at the rest of our region, we are low on ice types. So I need you to come to the rescue.
We'll
Let
be
me
covering
know
that
down
in the
comments
0.5,
below
like,
what
after I give my
ideas
thoughts
you
on this
have
one.
for ice types in the Palean region. It can either be based on an extinct animal or a prehistoric concept. And don't be afraid to suggest a primal form for an already existing Pokemon.
We didn't get what the new battle gimmick is going to
Thank
be
you
yet,
so
though.
much for
So
watching, and please
probably
leave a like
he's
if you enjoyed
probably
the video.
just giving more
As
time
always,
for like
I
the
would love to
poll
hear
he was
your thoughts
hosting
on
at the
today's
time. You
episode
know,
down below,
be like, we don't
and I'll
need to get
see
to
you
it
in the
right
Ice-type
now,
episode coming
right
up next.
now.
Bye.
And yeah, it's got a lot of cool evolutions. I like all of these designs. A little less so with the grass type. Just well, I've already said why. But you know, even if it comes in last, I still like the design overall. And plus, the final form will probably look really cool as well. I love all the interesting designs and little bits of history. It's just like, I know I bitch about being like, they keep changing how the history books work. And I know that it's like, it's history. History is written by the winners, you know, all that stuff. Things we learned, like dinosaurs had feathers and all that stuff. They didn't have skin. I accept all that stuff in the past, except for the you know, the guy who invented the light bulb. That's a retcon. I swear to God, they're trying to. The point is, yeah, history isn't nearly as fun as we're told in the storybooks and such as, you know, Newton getting an apple dropped in the head, Ben Franklin was struck by lightning. But those are more fun, you know. It's I don't know. But I do like learning the history of like where it comes from. It's like, not only are we doing prehistoric Pokemon, we're doing not just dinosaurs, we're also getting things from the past and based on history from the past. You know, it's inspiration all of the past. This is a celebration of the past in a way. I'm looking forward to the Independence Day Pokemon. It's a Pearl Harbor boat. Not Pearl Harbor. That's something else entirely. I meant Boston Tea Party. Oh God. Sorry. I'm gonna get canceled for that one. I say as people are making 9/11 jokes nowadays. What is wrong with you people? Ugh. Oh, whatever. What are you gonna do? Let's just move on to the next part before I say something else stupid. Next, designing your ice types in Pokemon Amber episode
Hello,
8.5.
everyone, and welcome to another bonus episode.
He asked for
I'm Gabe,
ice
today
type
we're gonna be
ideas, and now he's
designing
gonna,
some new ice
you know,
types for the
design
Palean
them.
region. Some will be cute, some will be cool, and the last one is probably the strangest design.
Question mark.
In the last episode, I asked for
I do
suggestions,
remember,
and you all came
Jace
to
at
the
one point
rescue.
made a Pokemon series on
got
Wattpad. It's
so
deleted now, sadly.
many
But he did make an
amazing
ice type that was called
ideas. It was
Indoraptor,
incredibly
which was
difficult
like
to narrow
kind of like a
down to just few
Velociraptor, but
designs.
ice type.
And before we jump in,
Honestly, it was one of my
huge
favorites
shout-out
from that
to
fan-made
the
region.
Steph
It was
Bison
cool.
Suggestions. I was this close to doing a primal form of Bouffalant, but I decided to wait until we have regional forms for all of the regions before I give a second regional form to Gen 5.
That's fair.
But
That's
seriously,
reasonable.
Such a good idea. Our first two designs are based on dinosaurs that we know lived in cold climates. So a huge thank you to those of you who pointed me in that direction. But let's not waste any more time. First up is Pachyrhinosaurus.
Ah, Triceratops.
As soon as I saw the first suggestion for this big-nosed ceratopsian,
Triceratops are my
struck
favorite
with the
dinosaurs.
image of a
Incredibly
dinosaur
generic,
with a big
yes. Boring,
block of
yes.
ice
Don't care.
stuck to
It's
its
my
nose,
favorite.
giving it
Shut
that,
up.
Chunky Pachyrhinosaurus look. I also knew that I wanted to bring in some of the speculative quills that ceratopsians are thought to have had. Smaller ceratopsians like Psittacosaurus have fossilized evidence of quills sticking out of their rumps. But the larger species have been found with large osteoderms that likely held quills in place. So it's still speculative, but I like to think that it's fairly likely.
Most likely, yeah.
What those quills ended up being in our design was decided by the other cold climate dinosaur design. So you see, I wanted them to work as a pair, but to have this bully herbivore be able to pick on the predator, just for fun. Now, it makes for an odd design, but our little Pachys is getting the fire type to really deal with its fellow
ice fire.
Yes,
Good
fire
luck.
and ice together. I was pretty underwhelmed when we got Galarian Darmanitan and its ice fire Zen mode, so I figured we could use another. Getting the elements to be balanced on the design was a bit difficult.
What is an ice fire's weakness? Rock, I guess?
For such
Ground?
opposing forces also proved tricky. But in the end, we've got a mean little bully that is a serious offensive threat. This is Blacier, the Temper Pokemon.
I like that name, and I like that
Pokemon's
shiny.
Mood is impossible to predict, fluctuating wildly between.
It looks like it started eating an Avalugg, and it melted, or a bird might most likely Avalugg.
Antagonize predators in the wild. Unsurprisingly, they are incredibly difficult to train. Its ability is Flash Fire, so if it's hit with a Fire-type move, it does not take any damage, but its Fire-type moves are then increased in power. That only happens.
Ah, yeah, it's big brain
But
time.
still, this is a pretty amazing ability for an ice type to get. Blacier is something that we'll probably run into once we get up to Mount Palian later on.
Makes sense.
Quite nasty. So let's see the other ice type dinosaur that Blacier likes to pick on. The other
And why it's an
suggestion
Avalugg.
that seemed too perfect was Cryolophosaurus, another dinosaur that we know lived in cold climates.
So it's a
Also, the
but no,
cryo
it's not.
in its name is just too
Looks like
good
it
to
could
pass
be
up.
related to it in some
I love
regard,
the
but it isn't.
depictions of super
lost right there.
fluffy dinosaurs, and I wanted to take a potentially scary theropod and make it much more.
It's so fluffy, I'm gonna die!
Now, I wasn't sure about the second typing until I stumbled across a flower that was restored from a 32,000-year-old squirrel cache in the Siberian permafrost.
Make them
And
related.
it just so happened
Interesting
that the flower
idea.
petals resembled the distinctive crests on the Cryolophosaurus. And not only that, but the ice grass typing means that it is particularly weak to Blacier's fire type. So,
Ooh.
ice grass it is.
Poor fool.
After that, it was just about getting the design round and fluffy enough. I even pulled the particularly poofy toes from one of the reference images. I didn't want the petals on the side of the face to look too sharp, so I gave it a scalloped edge. This led to an unintended but wonderfully silly little mustache on the design too.
It does kind
I
of
tried
look a
to
little
pull
silly,
the
but that's
colors
okay.
directly from the flower, but they were a bit too saturated, and I felt like I needed to tweak the petal colors in particular to get something that felt cooler. And here is Cryoliage, the ice flower Pokemon.
I really like the idea that he just saw that flower and said, "That's it.
Where it successfully
That's my
camouflaged itself
inspiration."
as snow-covered vegetation. Cryoliage use a mixture of fluffy feathers and bushy leaves to stay warm in the coldest of conditions. The petals they shed in the summer can be used to brew a delicious minty tea. Its ability is Fur Coat, so that reduces damage from physical attacks by half. And it needs that because, I mean, we've been over it. The ice type
Yeah.
is not good. So being able to
Not
have
to mention
all
it's
that
being
physical
preyed
damage
upon by a
is kind of
Triceratops, so
necessary.
it needs all the help it
I
can
think
get.
that these two make for a fun duo, and we needed some more single-stage designs for our region.
Be interesting if they
If you
had
had to
like the
pick between the two,
Zangoose
which
Viper
would you prefer?
rivalry.
This next
Glacier,
Pokemon is
easily.
all due to one phenomenal
I don't hate
suggestion.
Cryoflage, but Glacier is
SMG
cooler.
brought to my attention the ancestor to modern penguins, the Waimanu.
Penguins,
Weird,
penguins,
cool
penguins,
name.
penguins, penguins.
And SMG suggested that we could do a design
Keep
that was
waiting to hear the
common
4 or the
ancestor
3 at the
to
end.
Delibird, Empoleon, and
Ooh.
Ice Cube. And I thought this was a super fun idea. A great
I don't like Ice
design
Cube.
challenge as well
Lame.
to try and hint at the elements for those 3 different penguin designs. Starting at the top, I wanted some ice on the head to link towards Ice Cube's head covering. I added some shards of
Well, I
ice
don't mind
around
Ice
the
Cube, I
neck
just
to
wish
hint
that the
at
head thing didn't
Empoleon's
come off,
cool
because
collar
after
it
that it
gets.
just looks like a regular ass
The yellow
penguin. It's
little
like,
eyebrows
lame!
are meant to point towards both Empoleon's trident headpiece, as well as Delibird's big old eyebrows. And lastly, but certainly not least,
Who doesn't
I
like
gave it
Delibird?
a big poofy tail to reference
If you don't like Delibird, you
Delibird's
don't like Santa Claus, in which case I don't want to see you ever.
Waimanu also did have a longer tail compared to modern penguins, so that works too. And lastly, that tail will be important when this Pokemon evolves.
Oh?
Yes, it evolves, but for simplicity's sake, we're saying that the other penguin Pokemon evolved from this species, and that over time its evolution died out. But before we get to that, here is Penguno,
I like
the
it.
proto-penguin Pokemon.
It's cool. Pun not intended.
Suspect that this species branched off to become the Delibird, Ice Cube, and Empoleon Pokemon.
I probably wouldn't catch this one.
Pengunos
Well, I agree,
store
that's a lie. I'd
food
catch
in
it for the
their poofy
Pokedex, but I don't think I'd
though
like use it
its
or anything like
size
that. It
makes
just,
them poor swimmers. It grows a necklace of ice shards to appear threatening, but most find that Penguno just looks cute or goofy. Its ability is Slush Rush, and that boosts
Nice.
a Pokemon's speed in a hailstorm. It's a
I like
fun
how it takes on
and
almost
weird
turkey
little
colors
ice-type
in
bird,
the
and
shiny.
we'll probably introduce it in the next route's cliffs. But what
Alright.
could it evolve into?
I also
Well,
did like that
there
it has
was
like an
one
ice
other
beak. That's
suggestion
cool.
that a lot of you wanted. A suggestion that I initially wasn't too keen on, since we already have another Pokemon representing that animal.
But y'all won't
but it
shut
was
up about it, so
highly
fine.
requested. So we are going to make a woolly mammoth. That is right, a woolly mammoth. You're probably asking yourself, how can an ice-type bird turn into a pachyderm? Game,
What?
have you lost your mind? Well, my friends, I thought all was lost until I remembered the recently extinct elephant bird of Madagascar.
Are you out of your
Elephant
mind?
Bird, surely there is more than a little wordplay. Our elephant bird will be
This is the
posing
dumbest
as a
thing
man
I've seen. I
by
saw at the
keeping
zoo
its head
recently.
down like a trunk,
There are
moving its
monkeys
wings
that are
out
the
like
that
ears,
look like
moving
skunks.
its fluffy
I mean, as
tail
in they're
like a
black
big
and white and
elephant butt,
that stuff. But
along
it's
with
like,
icy tusks and
Eh.
eyes. We end up with a
some
convincing
animals are
silhouette.
stranger than fiction, is what I'm trying to get
Oh,
at.
It's weird, but it
This is
follows
incredibly
the
weird,
sometimes loopy Pokemon
But not
nature.
completely
Anyway,
out of
here
line for
is
Pokemon.
Mimiton, the elephant bird Pokemon.
We don't need another woolly mammoth. We have
Penguino, who grew
Mamoswine.
frustrated with not being taken seriously, evolve into this frightening
This was based
Pokemon.
off an episode of 64
Mimiton
Zoo
keep their
Lane.
head low to the
The
ground
elephant
so
got
that it
bored of being an
appears to be the
elephant and
trunk
decided
of
to be a
large tusked
bird
behemoth.
instead for a new
The back half of its
challenge.
body
And
is
I don't know why that
sophisticated.
episode lives rent-free in my
Its
brain.
ability is Intimidate, since it looks like a big scary mammoth.
'Cause it
That
is.
lowers the
Kinda.
opposing Pokemon's attack stat when they enter battle. I'm really happy with how this concept turned out.
This was a
I've always
completely
kind of
insane
disliked
idea.
Mamoswine, so it's good to have another woolly mammoth.
What's wrong with
option.
Mamoswine?
And there are
Eh,
our new
whatever,
ice types
personal
for
opinion.
the Palean region. Let me know what you think of them.
Mimiton
down in
just
the
looks
comments below.
ridiculous to
A
me,
huge
but
thank you
that's
to
also
all of
kind of
you
Pokemon
who
in a
gave such
sense.
amazing suggestions and a very
Penguino
special
evolving
thank
into
you
that thing's
to
just like a
young
left
but
turn,
very
but you know what?
talented
Fine, they
artist
won't
who
shut
sent
up.
me
I
his
guess
own
gotta shut them up
ice-type
somehow.
designs on
I mean, I
Instagram.
guess I can
Keep up
kind
the
of
good
see
work.
it now that I'm looking at it a bit
I'll
more
see
clearly.
all
It's sort
of
of
you
like
in the
more like
next
an
episode,
ostrich,
where
but
we
just
will
like
meet
doing
a
the
newly
butterfly
created
thing.
character and unlock the battle mechanic for the Palean.
Ah,
See you then.
nice.
Bye.
Looks like everything one, although I can't remember what that exactly portrayed. Out of my head. Maybe it was adaptation. I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. Easily just said the Triceratops one, in my opinion. That one. After that, it was the the one it preyed on, and then it was the bird that turned into an elephant. I mean, it makes sense that it's trying to do like an emu thing, but also mix in a little bit of butterfly, how they like open their wings, look like a bigger monster than they are, like jazz. I mean, when you look at it from that point of view, it kind of makes sense, but it's also like, this is kind of ridiculous. But it's also Pokemon, so of course it's ridiculous. I'm just glad I didn't make it flying type as well, because imagine that you're like, okay, now there's this thing, also it can fly. No. Just no! Too far. That's too far. Oy. I mean, the design isn't bad, it's just kind of like a lefter, but again, fine, you won't shut up about this freaking, ice woolly mammoth? Fine, here's your woolly mammoth. It's a bird. Shut up. But yeah, these are some cool designs. Got a cool Pokemon in this next one. I don't know, making the cool pun. Shut up. But yeah. Not all of them are winners, but I think they're all overall great. So I guess they're all winners in a sense. But, just because one isn't appealing to me doesn't mean it isn't appealing to everyone else. Some people could have them be their favorite Pokemon. That's perfectly fine. People could have Penguino be their favorite Pokemon, and that's perfectly fine. You're all the right to your opinion at the end of the day. What's the expression? Opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one. But yeah. Got some new evolutions, some brand new Pokemon, and it's all great and good in the world. So yeah. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care now.